Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm certainly pleased to be here in the city of Imperial Beach.
They say that timing is everything, and for State Senator Steve Padilla, the timing on this one was clearly not the best. As he stood at the podium this morning in Imperial Beach, a boil water alert was in effect for the entire community, not to mention the billions of gallons of sewage floating in the ocean behind him. But this announcement was not about solving the sewage crisis, it was about tracking it. Another $3 million in tax money to predict the path of sewage from Mexico.
To be able to better understand, quantify, and project where and when we might need to take public actions to advise the public when and where to be, so that we can avoid the public health impacts.
For thousands of people currently stocking up on bottled water in IB, they don't need another $3 million study to predict the flow of the sewage. They live in it every single day. Even if the boil water alert is somehow not directly related to the sewage crisis, it is another punch in the gut for a generation of people.
Today marks the 625th consecutive day that our beaches have been closed. Our ocean water is poisoned. Our parks are poisoned, our air is poisoned, and now our drinking water is poisoned. This should never happen in any community. But this just emphasizes the need for a state of sewage emergency. So I continue to call on Governor Newsom to declare a sewage state of emergency.
A state of emergency that was requested and rejected by the governor of California 2 weeks ago. So instead of shovels and basic plumbing to fix the crisis, sophisticated scientific models will be created to predict when it's coming.
Well, frankly, those of us in Imperial Beach are sort of feeling like lab rats now. It's almost like the Tuskegee experiment, is that everybody wants to come down now and do research on what effect decades of exposure to sewage is.
Brian Bilbray is a retired politician now, but when he was a young mayor of Imperial Beach back in the 1980s, he rented a bulldozer and tried to send the sewage back to Mexico. 40 years later, there's no bulldozer, but he is still fighting the fight and wondering when.
Sadly, I started so early in politics in my mid-20s that I'm around long enough to see this replay going on and on. But I sure like to think that somewhere down the line that my great-grandchildren won't be treated as lab rats.
The longest-running environmental disaster in American history, the people of Imperial Beach have been poisoned for generations. It's basic plumbing on both sides of the border, and basic plumbing that appears to be a mountain too high to climb.
$1 billion worth of projects. $1 billion worth of projects. It's what's required to solve this problem. We know what it's going to take to get there. We know that we need at least a minimum of $150 million today. It's needed right now to fix the South Bay treatment plant. But we know that that $1 billion is what's ultimately needed from our government in order to actually solve this problem.
The rejection of the state of emergency from the governor of California came as a bit of a shock to the politicians down here in San Diego. You know, the entire San Diego political delegation came together on this one issue, requesting a state of emergency, not only from the state of California, but from the President of the United States, and in both cases, getting a big fat no. Why? That is a good question. But in the meantime, more generations of people down here in Imperial Beach will be poisoned until finally that basic plumbing is done, the shovels are in the ground, and at that time, we will no longer need flow charts to tell us where this is coming from. We're in Imperial Beach. Dan Plant, KUSI News.